you know, he's just not interested in sitting in a classroom, you know. So he learns things on his own, and I guess it depends on the, you know, the desire. Is it to just gain the knowledge? Because if that's the case, then you can get that knowledge just about anywhere online. Colleges offer all kinds of programs for free that you can get the knowledge. If you're wanting that piece of paper, then, you know, you can do that. So I'm not really concerned about college per se, because I want my children first and foremost to be happy and pursuing the things that they're passionate about. And sometimes that means, you know, college is not an option for them.
And Zoe, we know you're going to be going to college, but before that, did you, when you were in maybe more of the high school years or late elementary, were you looking forward, thinking of going to college, and was that a concern at all? That would you be able to do that because maybe you had taken some of the traditional classes?
Well, I first wanted to start taking classes when I was 12. I wanted to take a geology class at local community college because they pretty much exhausted their resources on geology, and we figured this was a good resource. Taking a class was a good resource, and it turned out to be. But the main problem with it was the college isn't used to 12, almost 13-year-olds trying to get in, so they're just not used to it. They don't quite know how to deal with it. But honestly, it wasn't too much of a trouble to get in. We were able to, and it was great.
And Greg, were you concerned at all, that you needed to really prep her before she went? Or?
Not really. We concerned ourselves more with just getting her a general level of knowledge, and we knew we always could sign her up for ACT, SAT, and put together a transcript if we needed to, but we researched a bit more and found that going to community college first was going to be an easier entrance, and that let her take online classes first and kind of gradually ease into the experience. And at this point, she's got enough community college credits that she can just straight transfer into a four-year university, and it's no concern still ACT or SAT.
Cool. And the last thing, and then we're going to open it up to questions, is since it did say unschooling pros and cons, we're going to see if anybody actually has a con. So Nancy, is there a con that you can think of to unschooling, or?
I suppose there is, in terms of there are certain commonalities amongst people, and so when we all get together, and share stories, we all have stories of school, and if our kids don't have that, they can feel left out. My son's childhood has been so radically different from most kids. What I find with them is a lot of their friends now don't even know that they've got the world record. A lot of their friends don't even know that they rode their bikes from Alaska to Argentina. My boys don't really talk about it. If it comes up in conversation, they'll mention it. It's not like they're intentionally trying to hide it, but it's so far out of the box that it doesn't tend to come up much. And so I think that's something when kids do have this radically different childhood and radically different way of growing up, that it can be, I guess, difficult on some level when kids are talking about certain shared experiences that basically all kids have, and our kids don't have that. It can be difficult, and that's all in how parents approach that. I think how the parents set the tone for that.
Right. Christy, can you?
Yeah, I would actually agree with Nancy about that, because it is so far out of the box. It is real hard, especially when you have a child that is social and they're wanting to interact with other kids, and then she tries to explain what we do, and they just can't wrap their brain around what we're doing. And so I guess that would be a con as far as trying trying to help our children feel like they can fit into wherever they are. So we talk about it and say, hey, how can you handle, if this comes up, how can you handle that situation? So we do a lot of conversations about possible scenarios, but yeah, that would be, otherwise, I think both of our kids are very, very happy we chose to unschool, and when they're asked, do you want to do something different, they don't. So,
was there any con at all you can think of to being unschooled?
There's one question that people always ask me that was really awkward to answer. What grade are you in? What grade are you in?
Right.
So, on the topic of relating to others, it reminds me that somewhat recently we showed the Breakfast Club to our girls, and they couldn't relate to it. It just didn't quite make sense for them.
It was mildly amusing.
Didn't know what intention was and why you were stuck in a library.
Why are there people in these cliques?
Yeah.
I would also say it's a little difficult to explain to other adults what you're doing.
Yes.
You don't have a curriculum, so what exactly is it that you do? And trying to explain that, well, actually my kids are home watching TV right now, and I'm okay with that. And it can be difficult even with other homeschooling families.
Absolutely.
Some people will claim to be homeschooling and just leave their kids to themselves for 16 hours a day.
And claim to be unschooled.
And claim to be unschoolers, and that frustrates us a lot. Trying to concisely say what it is we're doing and differentiate that, well, we don't have this rigid schedule, but it's not utter chaos either, and it's hard to say.
I agree with all that has been said too. I think for me, the same thing. Sometimes it's difficult to explain, and I know in our home community, when we were in our brick and mortar, we had very few unschooling friends. Most of ours were pretty traditionally schooling, and so sometimes it was difficult to just mesh our schedules together because they weren't available till 3 o'clock, even though they were homeschooling, and we were saying, but we're ready to go, let's do things and park days and field trips and whatever. So, all right, so we're gonna open it up to questions. So if anybody has any questions, if you wanna just, whether it's someone specific or you wanna just to the panel in general, you look like you have a question. Go for it. In the blue. Yes. In the blue shirt.
I'm Gina's husband.
Okay, Gina's husband. Awesome.
My question is more social. When I see my kids in the park, I see them getting pushed out of the way and taken advantage of, and sort of not able to cope with that alpha puppy type thing. So I don't really know how to phrase my question, but have you ever felt that way, like sort of in the teenage group situation, that you felt unprepared for that aggressiveness of, like, I don't even know how to phrase my question, but I see it happen to my kids all the time. They don't know how to be mean. They don't know how to be aggressive. They don't know how to push out of the way and say, it's my turn.
How old are your kids?
How old are your
younger,
kids?
right?
10, 8, 6, and 4.
Yeah. So it'd been
Like
Zoe-
when you were at
Zoe
the
was
park
younger.
or something, did you ever feel that way? Like, I don't want to push my way on the swings.
I'm not really sure how to answer that.
I'll answer it if you don't.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I don't see that as a negative thing at all. If we were in a group that was too pushy or aggressive,
Mhm.
we decided that wasn't people we wanted to be around. And
Yeah.
really, that's not what you want to be instilling in your kids.
Yeah.
Because once they're adults, police get called if you push and shove your way
Yes,
around.
yes.
So,
Well,
you
what
know,
about
people
like
kind of think
emotional
that-
bullying? Like, if you work at like a place and the boss is mean, or
Yeah,
like
I
I've had that problem
make
in
the
my
assertion
life.
that you need to toughen up and learn how to
Yes.
stand up for yourself.
Yes.
And really, I think we should be teaching our kids, the more mature ways to stand up for yourself.
Mhm.
To calmly say, I have a problem with this. I need you. This is a problem for me. I would appreciate it if you do this. And if that's not working, then you escalate to somebody else who can make that happen. And if it cannot be fixed, then that's a situation you shouldn't be in. And that is one of the great things about not sending our kids to school, is they're not forced to be in one of these situations where they can't leave. Because as an adult, that's what you would do. If you were getting bullied and pushed around at work all the time, you'd find a
Quit,
job.
yeah, sure.
I think that's one of the, I always kind of say it's the pros and cons of just homeschooling in general, because when my older daughter was always public schooled, so she would tell me sometimes a year or more later about something that had happened in school. It was a little too late to address any of it. When you're homeschooling in general, you're with your kids, especially us who are on the road, you're really with your kids all the time, and so you really encounter what's going on, and you have to address things that are going on then, which is sometimes uncomfortable for someone like me who doesn't really like confrontation and to address things, but it's the wonderful thing about homeschooling because you are there. So, yes.
Well, can I just kind of
Please.
caveat on this?
Absolutely.
I've homeschooled for, my oldest is 19 and just moved out this year. We have 7 kids, and so when we went on the road 9 months ago, it was very natural for us to take it on the road. We flipped over to unschooling, and I don't say that to everybody I meet because you do get so much negativity. But we also grew up with my kids on military reservations because we are retired military. So, I mean, like, I think there's a side of it where you teach them to live in the real world and how to cope with those things one-on-one, because not everybody that you meet you're going to agree with. And so knowing when to say, hey, you know what, you can say your piece, not get in an argument and walk away from it, and let them know where you stand on this. Or, you know, don't go out to play after 3 o'clock and you make a choice to be out there at 1 o'clock when you know they're still in school. So, you know, I mean, like, I think there's that side of it too.
Because we're always like, share, be nice,
Right.
say sorry, do this, do that.
Yeah,
and
no.
then they're always getting,
Well, and this is my son, he's 13, and he's very compassionate. He's definitely a gentleman, and he'll open the door for women, and he'll open the door for, you know, any girl or ladies or anything like that. And he's always been very sensitive and very compassionate to other kids, and always the kind that, you know, he would be the one that would get bullied and just really walk away. So we've had to deal with that. And I agree with the dad up there, I forgot your name, but the dad, right? And that you have to choose, like he said, you know, if you went into a situation, and we have traveled a lot, and being military also, we've been around a lot of the military community. And when we go somewhere, and there's been times where we've not been able to go back to the group because it just doesn't fit what our expectations are and what's important to us. And it's like you can either, and I give them the choice a lot of times, and that's where like the whole forcing unschooling kind of comes into it. It's like, hey, do you want to go to the playground knowing that this is the kind of kids that are there, or do you want to go over here and do something else? And sometimes they're like, I will give up my playtime because I don't want to be bullied, and those kids aren't very nice and stuff. And it's not always easy. But I mean, if we model it in our home, what we want for them, then that's how they're going to be. Then they take it to the playground. And again, there's times where it works and it doesn't work, and you just like, you know, it's our job to keep our kids in safe situations. And so if it's not a safe situation, you pull them out of it. And it's not always easy, and it's a delicate balance, I do think. But it's something that, you know, you're teaching them now because you don't want to teach them to fight and to be a bully, because then later on that's what they're going to turn into, and then they're going to be the kid on the other side as they get older that the kids don't want to be around. And then you're going to be one of those strange homeschoolers. You know?
Okay, we're at the hour mark. We actually have the room for another hour, so if anyone needs to leave because they want to put awnings in or whatever, feel free to do that. If you want to stay, if anyone else has any questions for our panelists specifically, if they want to, feel free to ask. And I'll also tell you, but you do not, no, you're fine tonight. Under the piece of paper, the second piece of paper is just kind of a list of some resources that have helped me, some books and people and some websites and such. And I know that maybe just real quickly we'll go through, and if anyone on the panel has some resources of books or things they'd like to share and you want to jot any of those down, we'll do that. Maybe that way in case people need to leave. So, okay. Nancy, do you have any, would you like to promote your books?
I'm writing a book. It's almost done. I'm hoping this weekend to be able to turn this over to a book on Roadschooling, on how to use your experiences on the road to educate your kids. So not using a separate curriculum, not relying on outside sources, but instead really zeroing in on your experiences. And it will be called Roadschooling, Education Through Travel. It'll probably be a couple of months before it's out.
Will that be on Amazon, or where would they find it?
It will be on Amazon. I will also have it available on my website at familyonbikes.org. So familyonbikes.org is where all of that will kind of be held. I'm actually starting a website called roadschooling.com, The website is up, but it's very, very basic at this point, but it will, as I get the book up and out, it'll get fleshed out.
Christy, you had some books you
Yeah, I
wanted to
just
share.
have some books I wanted to share that were things that I've read that were important in our journey. So this one is called the Teenage Liberation Handbook.
And that's on there. But
Oh, it is.
yeah, they kind of pass it around.
Yeah, yeah.
Does anybody have teens or
It's actually written
tweens?
for teenagers. So
Want to take a look at it?
it just kind of deals with a lot of the issues that teenagers kind of think about and go through and stuff. And this one is called the Uncollege Alternative. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Nope.
But it just, if your child isn't interested in going to college, just about different things that you could pursue. And there's actually some tests in here that you can kind of take with your child to see if, you know, would they be successful in college, and kind of, if not, what are some other options for them? So
Okay,
that's one.
sure. And there's another one on the list by Blake Bowles. I think it's called Better Than College. Kind of go in tandem.
And this one is not an unschooling book by name, but it was one that I was given when I was going through my schooling in college, and it was one we had to read, and it's about math, and it's changing the whole perspective of how you think about math, and it just, you know, in traditional learning, we're taught to teach our children, or in our classrooms, a system of learning math. And this answers the question, why do we teach math, and why is it important, and thinking about it in terms of making it make sense. So that's a question we get a lot with, like, what are you going to do about math? So this is a really good resource to read, just to kind of get a different perspective on what math is. So
Sure.
yeah.
Math. Zoe, was there anything in particular, you want to, actually, why don't you go ahead and give them again your website?
Oh,
Okay.
my website is exogeologyrocks.com. That's EXOGEOLOGY rocks.com.
Awesome. And explain a little bit about what it is and
that is a website all about the geology of other planets. And I have a blog on there and a whole bunch of videos. I think I have over 10 videos now of interviews with various different scientists. And I have some geologists and an astronaut and very interesting people. You might look into that because they're really awesome. And I also have a trivia game that I run called Zoe's Geo Party. One goal of mine is to work for Jeopardy on the food crew. So right now what I'm doing is whenever I travel around to somewhere interesting, I make a Jeopardy style trivia category, video clues about it. And so that's my website. And as for unschooling resources, well, to be honest, just Google. Answer your children's questions as best you can, and what you don't know, find out. That's the best I can tell you.
Okay. Greg, anything? And you can obviously promote your wife's book.
Yes, so for those who don't know, Lisa is my wife, and she writes a fiction series about an unschooling, roadschooling family. There's a book for each state. They've got 6 books so far, with a plan of doing 50, one for each state. And I'll also promote her website, doliferight.com, where she's blogged a lot about unschooling and other things. And my other daughter, Tegan, doliferight.com.
That's a blog, so it's not my company, which is doliferightinc.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my other daughter, Tegan, has a website also, teganscreations.com, where you can see some of her fashions.
Do you want to actually stand up, Tegan?
Tegan, can I stand up?
I'm going to totally embarrass you, but she has made this entire outfit by herself.
Awesome. Well, I was just going to add 2 more recommendations to your awesome list. The Pam who's on the very first line, she has a book now.
And so you can just look at her website.